I think once you get to a certain point of wealth, you have an obligation to give back and an obligation to protect. Mackenzie Scott has given more money away than the Ellisons, Bezos, and Musk combined. I'm going to be sexist now, and it's okay to be sexist as long as we demonize men and sanctify women. So see above, it's okay to be sexist. But there is something different about the female brain around when you become a billionaire. What is it about femininity or the female brain that is just more philanthropic and more civic-minded, whereas these dudes start paying $45 million for a Melania documentary so they can kiss the ass of the president and stay out of his way? But here's the thing. What's the solution? If you were waiting on the better angels of these guys, don't hold your breath. I'm now under the impression that these guys would fuck their sister for an additional nickel. What we need is regulation. In today's office hours, we talk about why billionaires stay silent, how to know if you're in an echo chamber, and how to navigate equity negotiations. I have not seen or heard these questions. The reason I point that out now is I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer these well. Question number one.
Hey, Scott. Sam from Joshua Tree, California here. I have a question about the future billionaires and CEOs in this country. Like many people, and I think including yourself, I've been a bit baffled that the rich and powerful aren't speaking out more against Trump and ICE. As you and Kara pointed out in your recent episode together, turns out that having fuck you money just leads to wanting more fuck you money. How do you think we can fix this type of selfish behavior for the next generation of billionaires and CEOs? Or more importantly, do you think this type of behavior is fixable once you get to such an extreme level of wealth and power? Is this a parenting issue at a young age, or is it an issue of not having required public service and the connective tissue as a nation? Or maybe it's just a side effect of a baby boomer generation that's overall viewed as being pretty selfish. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. And I'm also curious, for you personally, what was the catalyst to you being more generous and outspoken once you started having a lot of money?
I have no fucking idea why. I don't get it. I think once you get to a certain point of wealth, you have an obligation to give back and an obligation to protect. Mackenzie Scott has given more money away than the Ellisons, Bezos, and Musk combined. I'm going to be sexist now, and it's okay to be sexist as long as we demonize men and sanctify women. So see above, it's okay to be sexist. But there is something different about the female brain around when you become a billionaire. What is it about femininity or the female brain that is just more philanthropic and more civic-minded, whereas these dudes start paying $45 million for a Melania documentary so they can kiss the ass of the president and stay out of his way? But here's the thing. What's the solution? If you were waiting on the better angels of these guys, don't hold your breath. I'm now under the impression that these guys would fuck their sister for an additional nickel. What we need is regulation. And that is fine. If your board wants to give you $1 trillion, I'm actually down with unlimited compensation for people. But for God's sakes, let's have an alternative minimum tax where you pay at least a minimum of a 50% tax rate. Take all your crazy deductions, 1202, borrowing against yourself, whatever it is, but boom, alternative minimum tax. What's been the catalyst for me being more generous and outspoken once you started having a lot of money? Just self-awareness. I decided once I hit my number, I was either going to spend it all. I'm a selfish person. I love to have a good time, and I was going to give the rest away. There's no reason, in my opinion. If you want to be a billionaire, that's your business. I don't think these guys, I know these billionaires. Elon Musk sleeps with a loaded gun next to his bed and is addicted to ketamine. Do you think he's happy? And he lives alone. I mean, Bezos? Yeah, Bezos seems pretty happy. He seems like he's having a pretty good time. When I give money away, it's because I want to reverse engineer to the things that are not my fault, that made me successful. The moment it happened was when I realized I'm not going to be around that much longer. I have taken more than I've given. I have a debt. So all of these amazing things that America has brought us, we have a debt to. And I realized that as I got older. I realized I hadn't been very philanthropic, and I wanted to give back. And it makes me feel good. It makes me feel important. I want to be remembered as a good man and a good citizen. There's something that has infected this community in technology, young billionaires. What is it? Is it because we've never had an existential threat? They've never been drafted into war? I don't know what it is, but I love your idea. And it's, if I could have one policy, magic wand policy moment, it would be mandatory national service, because the great legislation in the 50s and 60s around civil rights was because the majority of our lawmakers had served in the same uniform. Most of them were from the military. So I think that if we have 1 or 2 years of mandatory national service after high school, or 1 year after high school, similar to what the Mormons do with Mission, where effectively you get great young Americans to see how wonderful other young Americans are, whether they're from different income groups, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations. Just give them a chance to see how wonderful America is and how wonderful other Americans are. And that rich kid from Alabama is nice. She's a nice woman. And the gay kid from the Bronx, well, guess what? They have the same concerns that you have. And you're all going to come out of this, I would like to think, with some skills and a fidelity not to a Democratic Party or religion or a political ideology, but some fidelity to the flag. The lowest levels of young adult teen depression are in Singapore and in Israel, and they both have mandatory national service. And the guy who ran Singapore was a visionary and said, this is the most religiously diverse country in the world, Singapore. Huge danger or risk of ethnic violence. So we're going to get them all focused on another religion, and that is the country. And they have mandatory national service. I just think it's a huge idea because America is the most powerful country in the world. The way we fail is we collapse on ourselves, and that is we start eating each other from the inside out. But I don't think that we should be thinking about how we instill more character in these people. I do think the national service and instilling a sense of patriotism across young people is a good idea. And I think more regulation that says, fine, you want to be an asshole and have 14 kids by 5 different women and cut off aid to HIV positive mothers, fine. But be clear, boss, you are going to pay 50, 60, 80% of your income above $10 million to the government, similar to what we did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where economic growth was greater than it is now. Oh, that was a mouthful. Support for today's show comes from IM8. What happens when you get a NASA chief scientist, medical experts from Cedars-Sinai and the Mayo Clinic, and David Beckham in a room together? You get IM8, a wellness drink loaded with 92 nutrient-rich ingredients designed to help you feel good from the inside out. My Markets co-host, Ed Elson, I don't know if you've heard of him, young guy, has some potential, has been drinking IM8. What do you think of IM8?
I love it. It's delicious. It's hydrating. My favorite part is the fact that David Beckham is all part of it. I get to look at his face when I open up my box of IM8 every morning. So that is a big, big plus. I'm a fan.
There you go. Start feeling your best self every day with IM8. Go to im8health.com/Prof G and use code Prof G for a free welcome kit. 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. That's IM8health.com/Prof G, code Prof G for a free welcome kit. 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. im8health.com/Prof G, code Prof G. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Support for the show comes from Rippling. If your company's all-in-one system has you jumping between a dozen different apps, one for onboarding, another for payroll, and yet another for benefits, then you ought to consider your definition of all-in-one. Rippling, on the other hand, actually is all-in-one. It's the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance. With Rippling, workflows that normally bounce across various tools and departments all just happen in one place automatically. Here's an example. You have an employee who gets promoted or moves. Rippling can update their payroll taxes, manage any new app permissions, ship them a new laptop, issue a new corporate card, and assign any required training all in one place, without you having to put in all the legwork while you're switching between apps. With Rippling, you can run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or pick and choose products that best fill in the gaps in your software stack. So if you or your company want to run the backbone of your business on one unified platform with people at the center, head to rippling.com/Prof G and sign up today. That's rippling.com/Prof G to sign up. Question number 2 comes from Chris in Toronto, who emailed us. Hi, Scott, longtime listener, first-time asker. How do we identify the benchmark for when we've entered an echo chamber? What is your personal stress test for staying truly informed? Additionally, who are the credible voices on the other side of your arguments that you think are worth a listen to ensure that you aren't just breathing your own exhaust? That's a really good idea. People constantly ask me for my information sources, and I always say, well, it's my people I work with, and people send me shit. I try to read the Wall Street Journal. I occasionally flip on Fox every once in a while just to say what ridiculousness or conspiracy they're spreading. Although, actually, is that true? Supposedly more moderates listen to Fox and CNN, which kind of shocked me. How do you know if you're in your own echo chamber? Kind of when you start arguing with people in your bubble over the words they choose. It's like, well, okay, that's not the problem. And then expose yourself to different media sources. Try and follow some really thoughtful conservatives if you're on the left. Try and follow some really thoughtful people on the left if you're a conservative. But recognize, just first off, it's like, hi, I'm Scott Galloway and I'm an alcoholic. Actually, I'm not an alcoholic. Am I? Maybe I am. Anyways, But the first part of the problem or solving the problem is acknowledging it and just acknowledging that you might be in a bubble and maybe following some people who are thoughtful on the other side of the political spectrum. But if you even just recognize you're in a bubble, because what happens is the algorithms say, oh, Scott's right of center left. Let's take him way left and let's start showing him videos where someone on the right looks like a fucking idiot so he can get more and more enraged and go further and further left. And unfortunately, these algorithms aren't interested in moderates because they're harder to understand and enrage and keep engaged. So we move them further and further left and then serve them incendiary content or content that puts them further in their hermetically sealed bubble. I'm not really answering your question other than to recognize you might be in a bubble and make a very concerted effort to find new media properties and new individuals to understand and also engage with people and not write them off because of their political ideology. I know this fairly famous hedge fund manager who's really into Trump. I'm like, what, are you worried about safe and fair elections? What is it you think about his economic plan that's going to work? I just start asking questions. A lot of my friends from college are Jewish, and they're very much into Trump because they see Trump as being more supportive of Israel. And he has been what I'll call more resolute on Israel. But I'll ask a question. And my question is always, okay, there are 157 sovereign nations. On October the 8th, the day after the attacks on Israel, who is more supportive of Israel than but Joe Biden? Name a single country that was more supportive of Israel than the U.S. under the leadership of Joe Biden. He deployed 2 carrier strike forces the next day. I just want to have a conversation. I want to understand what is it, and I'm going to sound very partisan now, but I'm like, throughout history, aren't you worried that when there's a level of bigotry and racism as the kind we see right now, doesn't it always end up where they at some point go after Jews? What is it that you think is so good for us as Jews in Israel with Trump? And they'll have positive feedback. Look at evidence of this. Look at, he's just I think a lot of them, by the way, were more troubled by Vice President Harris trying to have it both ways and coming across as just very mealy-mouthed. But anyways, I'll just start asking questions. I follow different media properties, and I try and understand the conservative side. And even if you don't buy into it or it doesn't change your views, it makes your own views more bulletproof. But we all suffer from this. And I find myself occasionally, sometimes I just ignored good judgment and rational judgment because it doesn't fit the orthodoxy of the left, which I've kind of signed up for. But I like to think of myself as a critical thinker and go issue by issue and to be unafraid and say, no, I don't think that makes any sense. Like student loan bailouts, no fucking sense. Right? Schools are going to continue to issue student debt to people who aren't going to be able to pay it back. People are going to continue to just sign here on the dotted line because they think, oh, maybe I'll never have to pay it back. Maybe I'll get bailed out again. Moral hazard. The tuition will keep skyrocketing because cheap credit that maybe people do or do not have to pay back until we cut off some of the oxygen around student debt, put schools on the hook for 10, 20, 30% of bad debt. And before you know it, they're going to stop loaning $200,000 to someone at a mediocre university to get a philosophy degree and go be a bartender. Okay. What is that going to do? It's going to starve the mediocre schools who are overcharging of cheap credit, which will bring down prices. Will there be some pain? Absolutely. But I thought the student loan bailout was a really bad idea. And it's like, oh, sorry, boss, we thought we could trust you. This is part of the orthodoxy. Well, don't sign up for an orthodoxy. Go issue by issue and be a critical thinker. And always try, if you can, take the other side and just try and think through and acknowledge what are the points on the other side. I almost really didn't say anything there. But anyways, the fact that you have recognized you're in a bubble probably means you're about to burst out of it. We'll be right back after a quick break. Support for today's show comes from Framer. Let's say your marketing team wants a new landing page, so the design team mocks it up, and then your engineering department, who's already got too much on their plate, responds with, yeah, we'll get to it. Thousands of businesses, from early-stage startups to Fortune 500s, are choosing to build their sites in Framer, where changes take minutes instead of days to solve this very problem. Framer is enterprise-grade, no-code website builder used by teams at companies including Perplexity and Miro to move faster. With real-time collaboration, a robust CMS with everything you need for great SEO, and advanced analytics that include integrated A/B testing, your designers and marketers are empowered to build and maximize your .com from day one. So whether you want to launch a new site, test a few landing pages, or migrate your full .com, Framer has programs for startups, scale-ups, and large enterprises to make going from idea to live site as easy and as fast as possible. Learn how you can get more out of your .com from a Framer specialist, or get started building for free today at framer.com/Prof G for 30% off a Framer Pro annual plan. That's framer.com/Prof G for 30% off. Framer.com/Prof G. Rules and restrictions may apply. Welcome back. On to our final question. A listener emailed us. I'm helping launch a new AI startup. After months of negotiation, it's clear the founder is going to give me a raw deal on equity. Everyone tells me I'm getting screwed, but also that I shouldn't walk away. Should I take an opportunity, even if it undervalues my contribution? And if I take it, how do I shake the feeling that I'm being exploited? Have you ever felt taken advantage of and been okay with it? I'll start with the last thing. I started a company called Red Envelope. I brought in Sequoia Capital, the most powerful venture capitalist in the world, ultimately took my job as chairman. He and I locked horns. He was using the company as a dumping ground for the failed products of his portfolio companies. I called him out in a board meeting, and on the way to the airport, I was kicked off the board. So I was basically kicked out of the band I started. I felt like I was totally, the term is wronged unfairly, and I was just so furious. And I spent the next year or 2 years basically trying to figure out how to replace the entire board, which I did. But anyways, it was a waste of time. Occasionally, if you're treated unfairly, the best thing to do is, if someone fires you because you're gay, okay, lawyer up. But the only thing I guarantee you in the corporate world is a series of small injustices. And I'm not saying being a doormat, but recognize every injustice is not a crime against humanity, and everyone endures those. I'll give you an example. I feel like I've been wronged by people. I have never in my life sued anyone else or been sued. And one of my mentors was a guy named Warren Hellman from Hellman and Friedman. And Hellman and Friedman, at least at that point, they'd never sued anybody. Huge private equity firm, never filed suit against anybody. He said, we just don't work with them again. And that's the approach I've taken. If I feel like I've been wronged, I just walk away and I don't work with that person again. The best revenge is indifference, and that is to move on. And another mentor of mine, Hamid Moghadam, said something that was profound to me. He said, Scott, the best revenge is to live a fucking amazing life. So first off, come back to your question. There's two sides to this trade. If you're working in an AI startup, it means you have currency in the marketplace and credentials. So if you're feeling you're being exploited, then boss, go get another job where you don't feel like they're exploiting you. So the fact that you're continuing to interview there means that while you think you deserve more, you don't think you can do better, which means they're paying you a market rate. So quite frankly, it sucks to be a grown-up. It's a free market. If you're being exploited or you feel like you're being exploited, go find another job. If you decide, well, in fact, this is the best opportunity presented to me, then you're not being exploited. And once you start feeling like you're a victim, that is not a good rap. Negotiating your package or whatever it is, that's an entirely different thing that you need to be coached by other people. But boss, there's two sides of this trade. The fact that you got a job at an AI company means you're skilled. And if you think you're being exploited, then go somewhere else where they are not exploiting you. Otherwise, get over it. Recognize it sounds like it might be the best opportunity presented to you. It's a free market, and just get on with it and, do your best and hope and trust that if you are adding a lot of value, they'll recognize that and they will compensate you for that, or you can leave and go somewhere else that will reward your efforts. That's all for this episode. If you'd like to submit a question, please email a voice recording to officehours@profgmedia.com. Again, that's officehours@profgmedia.com. Or if you prefer to ask on Reddit, just post your question on the Scott Galloway subreddit and we might feature it in an upcoming episode.